very good evening and welcome along to Matchday Live with me, Cal Spellman. So great to be with you tonight and thank you so much for joining us. We are live from the Etihad Stadium ahead of our Carabao Cup fixture against Chelsea.
Mahrez hits it in! Brilliant! Absolutely gorgeous left foot free kick from Riyad Mahrez into the corner of the Chelsea goal. Mahrez takes it down beautifully inside the penalty area, tries the shot, Alvarez! 2-0 City!
Manchester City are through to the next round of the Carabao Cup with that 2-0 win over Chelsea.
My predictions out the window.
We've just been talking before about some of the teams that have gone out in the last night and tonight. It could be a clear running for City, this.
And looks up to try and get Liverpool forward. A long goal kick and Salah's got away! Salah's through on goal! And scores! And Liverpool are in front, and can you believe the way in which it's come about?
Games during a frenetic month of football, which ends with arguably the greatest ever final.
Step by step, when people come back, and I'm happy that they are back to work good.
So, after allowing another side to look after the Carabao Cup last season, City begin their latest assault on the trophy that have become blue, having resided at the Etihad Stadium for 4 years in a row. Manchester City win the League Cup. Onto De Bruyne and into Haaland. It's as if they've never been away. City's final preparation before the Carabao Cup tie with Liverpool.
Thursday night in the Carabao Cup against Liverpool.
Well, that's a huge game in the cup.
Another gem of a goal in a gem of a game.
Well, my friends, we have a World Cup winner in our squad. We want to say a massive congratulations to the main man, Erling Haaland, and we're so excited to welcome him back to the Etihad Stadium as a World Cup winner, of course, as well. We cannot say a massive congratulations to former Blue Nicolas Otamendi and, of course, Sergio Aguero. There's some cracking pictures of him throughout the night, as there were right here in Buenos Aires. More on that in a little bit. But, my friends, welcome back to Matchday Live. Our season is back underway and it is a great pleasure to have you join us this evening as we restart our campaign with a big fixture. We take on Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, of course, a cup we know so well. A cup we've won a fair few times, only losing once in our last 23 games. Of course, that will come, those of you remember, against West Ham, 5-3 on penalties we lost last season. So this season, we will be endeavouring to get our hands back on that crown. Games at Wembley away, and of course, as we know how important it is to lift that trophy early on in the season to give us that momentum. That's what Pep says is so key. So hopefully we'll be doing that tonight. But the small task of Liverpool stand in our way. And here to get into all of that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Michael Brown and Brian Murphy. What an absolute treat to have you on the show, Brian. I mean, you've been out with the guys in Abu Dhabi. How has it all been going for you?
We tried to play that trip down as much as we could. It was probably one of the most amazing experiences of my professional career. To go from kind of supporting Pep to being, I suppose, in theory, one of his support staff and our players to being squad members to support the first team players who needed it. It just meant that it was kind of a week like no other really for us.
And obviously we're going to get into the young players a little bit later on in the show, but also for yourself, of course, as a head coach, spending time with arguably one of the best coaches in football. What's that like?
Yeah, I don't think you can play it down. I think I sense that same feeling that the players felt. You were almost on the same journey in terms of an experience. We go from, I suppose, supporting him to providing him whatever he needs on a daily basis here, but then to go and have to do things on his behalf, just the feeling in your body changes because, you know, he is Pep and you want to please him, so the nerves are kind of inevitable, and it was a journey where we all kind of felt the same as players and staff out there. Really.
It's so nice to hear that as well, isn't it? You know, because that's I think exactly how I'd be if I was over there, Michael. And you know, you probably can't underestimate just how good that is for those young players as well.
Well, it's about the development, isn't it, for yourself as well.
obviously being able to be next to him, not just those young players, which we're all looking forward to the journey, it's the people supporting the young players. And these are the trips where sometimes can be special because of circumstance, because of the World Cup, players missing, and people get the opportunities. And what was something probably we'll discuss later on, and that happens in Girona game, for instance. You get to be in front of Pep Guardiola in the same dressing room, and it's just a fantastic opportunity.
Absolutely. We're going to be focusing on that course friendly that took place last week, and of course we're hoping to see some other of those names we saw at the weekend in our squad. Well, I can bring you that team now. This is our starting 11 as Manchester City take on Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. It looks like this. Stefan Ortega starts in goal. Young Rico Lewis at right back. I know that's going to put a smile on a lot of Manchester City fans' faces. So great to have him back in the team. Manuel Akanji and Aymeric Laporte at the heart of the defence. And we think playing left back, that'll be Nathan Ake, of course, returns from the World Cup alongside Rodri, who will be holding. Ilkay Gundogan, I'm sure, will be captain in the side. He partners Kevin De Bruyne in that midfield three. And then a forward three consisting of Riyad Mahrez on one side, young Cole Palmer on the other. How brilliant to see him as well. And Erling Haaland up front, as you've just seen on your screens there. That was him arriving at the Etihad Stadium. As we look to our bench as well, I mean, it's looking full strength, more or less. Scott Carson is there, and then we have Kyle Walker, John Stones, Joao Cancelo, Jack Grealish, Gomez, Bernardo, Foden, and young Alex Robertson. Michael Brown, were you surprised to see how strong this 11 is and squad really, given, of course, we know players coming back from the World Cup? There's all sorts of kind of things that come into play at that point. Are you surprised to see it that strong?
Do you know, I covered games in the week. I covered Wolves game, and they straight away went with a really strong squad. Newcastle, the same, extremely strong with players who have been away with England, which was one of the later ones affecting Manchester City. So the game against Girona, obviously there were several changes. Players weren't making it. A lot of those internationals came back on Monday, and then further later on than that. So actually, I was a little bit surprised with the lack of training that how many have made it. But I understand you want to get in the rhythm, you want to get them involved. But because of the size of the fixture as well, you might just need that experience for 10, 15 minutes at the end of the game. There's been a comment that I think Pep mentioned in his pre-match conference, Brian, talking about how actually it's players playing in the World Cup that are probably that little bit sharper than those who've had a break. Would you subscribe to that? Is that because they've got match time, basically?
Two key words I heard yourself and Michael say were, Michael mentioned that rhythm and getting back into that as quickly as possible. I think Pep goes on about momentum and trying to gather that momentum. You referenced that as quickly as possible. I don't think this is a normal season by any stretch, so I think the team will have to get back into flow really quickly.
Yeah.
And as such, I think these top managers and these top teams, which we most certainly are, will want to grasp that opportunity tonight to expose the players to what will be.
Do you think that's how they monitor the players as well? Do you know, actually, with the support behind them, with the sports science, the structure that's in place, you can actually be much more aware of what they can take on much quicker?
Yeah, I think they can. I think our manager in particular will know that these players are so conditioned to play game, that I think the belief is that they don't need a lot of time to re-acclimatise to what is going to be a unique set of circumstances. So I think you'll want to get the players back into it as soon as possible.
I mean, could we have asked, some people have said wouldn't have minded maybe a slightly easy game to get back into it, but actually, would you reckon the other side of that is going, Liverpool, you couldn't ask for a better game to go, where are your standards at for us to take into the Premier League season?
I think you look at Liverpool as well, they'll be thinking, really? Is that the draw?
Yeah,
everybody's away, what can we do? Yes, you've been out in Dubai and played some strong games. Ideally, you would have wanted a nice, an easier home game if you had that choice, for sure, of course you would. But ultimately, it's the same for both. You've got to be ready. And I think at the level you are for these two football clubs, these are the type of games that are going to come. These players now are actually it's just normal stuff for them. That's what's scary, and that's I'd say where the football club's at.
Yes.
They played Liverpool now, and it's no really big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, big game, let's get on with it.
For Liverpool, though, as we know, they've almost been one of probably our toughest opponents we can face. I think in the last 7 games, they haven't won here, but we've lost our last 3 games against Liverpool. Okay. Just looking at that squad, Brian, what do you think City's approach will be today to kind of maybe just turn that kind of downward curve to an up and get a win?
I just think the nature of the fixture means that there'll be an incredible focus from the players and the people on the bench without even having to mention it. I think the beauty of this game is it gives the team the perfect preparation for Leeds. If we had an easier draw as such and had a regulation game, then you don't quite know where you are going into that Leeds fixture. But I think this game in itself is going to be an epic tie. and our players, that's a strong team. And I mean, if you look at the bench, it's probably significant that there's only Alex Robertson from our group as such who's been able to get onto that bench, and I think that just shows the strength of the squad.
Do you know, like your style and your setup when you come against Liverpool with that high press, a little bit more direct and dangerous, and City used to actually controlling possession, moving wide areas, go and have a little probe, come back round. Do you know, how do you set up differently in this game when it's Liverpool to several other games that City find themselves?
Yeah, I think the beauty of our club and definitely the manager, from what I sense, is that he the respect, I think it's been evident in the last couple of days about the respect for the players and the opponents, I think, is enormous. I think that's been very evident. But I think what our club will try and do, we'll respect that, but we'll try and take it on in terms of if you can overcome that press and build up and go through it, the rewards are enormous, and it's almost the toughest test you could face after such little preparation time. But I don't think for a second that we'll start to go along or try and avoid that. I think we'll take it on, and as such it's going to be an intriguing battle of styles tonight between two of the best exponents of both styles.
Because you looked at that, and you know, you say if it's an Ake at left back, do you know, is that one that you sort of say, well, he's not going to go so far, he's got to sort of stay. Rico Lewis can go a little bit more. When you're playing against a particular front three, do you know, we've seen the full-backs go inside, playing that midfield role, that bounce pass out to another area. That's my point, Joe. Can you do that so much against this team?
I think we'll definitely see it. I think the beauty of Rico Lewis is that he's so adaptable in terms of his flexibility to do that role you mentioned, and he's as comfortable inside as on the outside.
He did start going in there, didn't he? I've watched him quite a lot now and getting used to it. So tactically he's really good at it.
I would say if you said to me his overall profile would probably mean that he's been inside more than outside. You know, I would say he can definitely develop as an attacking fullback who can do both jobs. But a specialist in terms of that inside role, and Pep's spoken a lot about how intelligent he is and how quickly he picks up and reads opposition presses and pressure.
Learned that from a few coaches, isn't he? So it's
we haven't quite got the Liverpool team news through. We'll bring that just a moment. But you're kind of thinking if Mo Salah starts, maybe he might be on this left-hand side possibly. It's a great test for Rico, but he seems to have that confidence that he doesn't shy down from it.
No, I think if you look at tonight's overall squad, it's testament to him that he's able to be in that team and in that squad, because some of our lads would definitely have been smelling a chance to be on the bench here. But I think it just gives so much more substance to the fact that Rico's made his debut. He's an academy graduate. I know he's actually sustaining himself in the team. It's like I think if people make that debut every week or every second week, it just doesn't happen here, because you know, Pep, you have to earn that right with this club and with this manager, and Rico's definitely doing that. So it gives us so much
something there. Well, Rico's doing that, and do you know the other players who've come in and had that taste?
Yeah.
And then you're saying they're looking to be on the bench tonight, and then they're not. That's a really, really big come down, isn't it? From having that elation of starting to then not being in the squad. So, how do you pick them up? How do you get into their minds to keep sort of them understanding the journey here?
I don't know. You'll notice. I think when you made your debut, you were in the team based on what you had done.
And then generally you went on.
Yeah.
But here it's so tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the point where it's maybe different for the young players.
I think the beauty of that is that the players have to understand who they're competing against. Here on the bench tonight is in wide areas is Jack, Bernardo, Phil Foden. I think it's just the challenge is so high for the players, and like I said, then Lewis is competing against some of the best fullbacks in the world. So to do what he's done is an incredible achievement, and Cole is following Phil's example. So it's amazing for the academy, but it just means that focus from the players in training has to be so evident every day because of the level of challenge.
Has Cole now gone to that next level, you know, where you're sort of saying he's in the group, he's permanent, and he'll be almost a little bit more of the ones who would get a touch frustrated because feeling like I could play every week in this type of game, you know?
Yeah. I think there's definitely a difference. I think Cole has had his season where he used to come back and play for us in DDS and make almost like guest appearances as such, and he comes in and scores a hat-trick.
Was there that one where he played and then he came over to the training?
He came on here against. I don't think he came on against here, but he came for us and scored a hat-trick.
Yeah, maybe he's done like the last 10 minutes.
He ran over in his kit.
He
ran over in his kit, just had to change his shirt.
That standard that is being set, I mean, it's so important, isn't it? Not just for your age group, but for all the age groups to see, like, you know, no matter that Cole Palmer might be starting to make the transition, that he's still always putting the work in when he needs to in in with the lads that he's been playing with all his life.
Yeah, I think, like Michael referenced, it's a challenge to when the players have a taste of it and to come back down. But I think it's good for them generally. I think because they have to be for every single day because of the level of challenge. So
yes,
it keeps them really humble in their approach to training in the academy. Otherwise, I think, you know,
standards drop a little bit.
So. I think it's a natural element, but
it must have given them a load of confidence, you know, to go back into your group. I mean, your level of training maybe then goes up again into that group, and the belief of the others who haven't is saying, well, let me get past them.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I think the beauty of the club at the moment is I get this strong feeling that the eyes of the first team management team and Cheeky definitely are always on the academy, and that relationship between Cheeky and Jason is so strong that the players definitely sense that every game is being watched and the level of performance is always acknowledged. So there's kind of literally no day where they can take it easy.
Yeah, because everyone's got it on it, and that's it. It's been such a joy to see for us fans as well, because now we're getting to see.
Kel gets to take it easy quite often,
hey,
so he gets
listen,
to have
Michael,
a few hours off.
Listen, less than that. Looking at some of our older players then, and Michael, and actually for a question to the both of you, but players coming back from the World Cup at different stages, of course, different experiences in the World Cup as well. We know how difficult. I think Gundogan released a big statement, obviously, about his experience in the World Cup with Germany. Ake had a great tournament. You know, Spain maybe a little bit kind of felt they should have done better. How will them emotions and that experience impact these players coming back? Because it can't be so easy as just to go, that's it, done now, we're back in City.
Very, very different emotions, and the disappointment was there firsthand. I spoke to one or two, and you could see they literally just didn't want to talk to anybody. It was their dream, you know, as a youngster to go through, to play in that tournament or a World Cup, to lift it, to be there, to see it, and it takes a bit of time to adapt. And I think it was really good from the management team to give those players a good rest.
Yes.
And I think from the outset, me looking in, just thinking, well, that was really important to give them some time just to reflect, just to get ready away from football just for a few days or so, and then ready to come. They'll all be looking forward to these games, but it's human nature, isn't it? You wanted to win the World Cup. That was the opportunity, and the players we're talking about at this level, realistically, quite a lot of those felt they were going there with a good chance of winning it.
Yes, and even though they didn't win it, you might have a little bit of banter with your fellow teammates, but I guess actually it's probably what happened in the World Cup stage in the World Cup. The focus becomes about City again. Do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. I think Michael alluded to, I think there'll be different levels of disappointment and different emotions that they've gone through. I think obviously Kevin came back last week, and you could see he started to get into that training really well and probably valued that more time. And I think it's going to be intriguing for me, the level of fitness and where certain players are in comparison to other players, because there is just no way of knowing where they are, I think, physically and emotionally, and it'll be very interesting to see how both teams adapt tonight. Absolutely.
Speaking of Kevin De Bruyne, of course, he scored in that friendly that we played at the weekend. We can see the goal here. I mean, if there's a start that you don't want to do against Manchester City, it's this, sadly, from the keeper. But Michael, for City fans, seeing Kevin De Bruyne coming back within less than 10 minutes, already back on the score sheet, that kind of really puts a smile on your face, because he's going to be key in making sure.
You know what?
It was
making me laugh, and I was thinking, right, how is Kevin De Bruyne going to get on? I mean, the goalkeeper, and I thought he would in this game. Kevin would go and support Haaland to press, to be a 2 almost, and City people still don't understand how much City do that.
Yes.
Do you know, and actually say we'll go right on top of it, and it's like a front 2. But literally, once you're playing in front, and once he's so balanced, I'm just looking at. I just said in commentary, I remember just saying goal straight away. Do you know that goal? It's not even in question. And some of the things he did was fantastic last week. There was some little flicks round the corners, taking the ball, some cheeky little nutmegs, and he was just pushing the button, just going, do you know what, I'm here. I'm not actually going too much into it, but I'm just going to show a few little tricks and skills, and it was great to see.
The other thing that was great to see, I mean, we know he knows how to find the back of the net. We can see his goal as well, Haaland scoring, and this will sound like an obvious question, Brian, but for our striker to have had the month's holiday that he's had, how important is it that he gets that feel and gets a little taste of goal before we really get the season going?
Yeah, I think what was clear from the trip to Abu Dhabi and since we've come back is there's definitely an element of building him up slowly and not rushing him. I think there is definitely substance in the fact that the players who are coming back from the World Cup physically are in a better place, I think, because that time off has probably been used to recover from the injuries he's had and now to build him up gradually. But this type of movement in the box has just become trademark, and I don't think he'll lose that, but it'll be interesting again to see.
Do you see that type of patterns when you watch the training?
Yeah.
Do you know when you see those runs in behind and Kevin getting into those positions?
Yeah.
And understanding where that run should be. There was a couple earlier that he went for and didn't get, and it flashed across, and there's that little push, creating that bit of space, good finish. And I just wondered how much do you see that often, that combination?
We do so much preparation on trying to teach our defenders to defend against
How do you
strikers.
defend?
And all of a sudden, when you start saying to them about being aware of Erling's movement, they look at you as if you got two heads, but you are
also aware of it,
but actually being aware of it and dealing with it is
and teaching them how to actually stop him.
Exactly. We have young centre backs like Jadel and Shea, who you saw on Saturday.
Yeah,
but
fantastic.
Still, when they train against Erling and there's a normal cross comes to the box, it's virtually impossible. You have to find like old-fashioned ways of getting into his body and stopping him.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing as a youngster though, and difference coming through here of having the ball all the time to teach them to then want to be physical.
Yes.
In a different way, going into a different style of football. And I think the one thing I seen last week from the youngsters aerially, there was a few too many headers being conceded. I thought they were great in some good positions, how they stepped in. So that was one thing physically, for me looking in, that they needed just to be a little bit sharper on.
There's a huge area of focus. Jason Wilcox, our academy director, is obsessed or convinced that our centre backs need exposure to these type of things that just they don't encounter naturally in the games programme. So we have to create them in training or find games against opposition that will expose those things, because it's definitely a trend of our young centre backs that we have to expose them to.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jolene spoke about that as well. Going actually, there are certain fixtures that these young players need to experience, because as great, and we've seen the success of our academy teams, but of course not all the games when you're at the top level are going to be you having 70% of possession. So even like I was saying I came to see the game against Grimsby, I guess even coming up against those more physical teams, those ones that have a bit more now, it can only stand them in good stead.
Absolutely. I'm not being disrespectful to the PL2 by any stretch of the imagination, but it just doesn't happen.
No.
When we go to play Mansfield in the first EFL trophy game, and our centre backs had just never seen anything like it.
It's great.
Yeah, I knew it was
a good
coming.
learning curve. You talk about cup games and things that come their way later on in games when a style's going to change, even against a Liverpool.
Yes.
Do you know, they might put more stuff in, you've got to deal with it. And there's one example, for instance, McAtee at Sheffield United.
Yes.
They are trying to adapt his style out of possession. That's one thing why he's not played all the games.
that he's been asked to do. But for Argentina, he was the one who stretched the opposition to create space for Messi. And I know it's easy to say, Messi, these little pockets that he found, but Alvarez's work rate is phenomenal, and we know that ourselves. We're very privileged to see him, and the ground he covers doesn't go unnoticed by us who understand the game. And he certainly played a massive part in causing the opposition big problems.
And of course, dribs and drabs have been coming back to the CFA, ready to prepare for this game. And I guess Pep kind of said it yesterday, he wasn't quite sure what to expect. What are your gut feelings about people who've been involved in the World Cup coming back just maybe for 24 hours and straight involved in a game like this?
I'd like to think that they're that professional, and I'm not going to say they're robots, but they're superhuman now with the amount of football they're asked to do, the sports science, the degree of everything that's analysed throughout the club, to make sure that they're in peak condition, mentally, physically and emotionally. And I don't expect to see anything different. I expect them to just fall back in. Maybe in a few weeks' time, I think clubs will say how it actually impacted that sort of month break. But for now, I mean, they're incredibly talented footballers, and they'll understand that every game that they play in, and against a Liverpool game like this, the spotlight's going to be in. They'll have to be at their very best.
And I guess when we looked at the lineup, maybe one or two people would have been shocked how strong it is. Were you?
Yeah, I am. I'm delighted though, Ali. I drove in tonight, and I'm hoping that it's going to be a really strong Liverpool team. I'm hoping that we're going to take, because Pep Guardiola takes every competition. He wants to win every competition. He's seeking perfection, and that is complete dominance. So he's not going to take his eye off on this game, and I don't believe that the players, we looked at the bench, how strong that is, and I'm interested, because it's a chance for Rico Lewis, the young lad, and we're going to talk about that coming in, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it happens. I want to see him, because I'm a defender, Ali, and I played for the football club, and I sometimes I think players that come in now, they're very lucky to be in this group and the way City dominate the ball. And when a defender plays, I want to see how he defends, and I want to see in key moments, because there might be 2 or 3 times in a game where a young defender might get asked a question for City. Tonight, I'm hoping he's going to ask many questions of him, and then we'll see whether, to go along with his incredible talent, ability, his awareness, and the way he's carried himself so far, but can he defend? And that's what I'm looking forward to tonight.
Thanks so much to Andy Morrison there. He's part of your commentary team on the Manchester City app, of course, with Alistair Mann, so you can get that on there. And then remember, come join us at half-time and full-time. So Brian Barry Murphy, head of our EDS, and we were speaking about at the start of the show. We want to focus in on some players, but just first I wanted to ask as a whole, what have you made of your season so far?
It's been an exceptional season in terms of, I suppose, a new group forming. It's one of the things I've had to get used to. The turnover of players is very quick in terms of settled squad last season. You have 12 months, and then all of a sudden the players go on to the next part of their careers really quickly. So you see Cole obviously progressed into the first team. James McAtee goes to Sheffield United. Liam goes to Stoke, Samadozi, Juan Harris. Turnover is exceptionally high.
Yes.
So it's a really short window for the players, but a very important window, because the next stage of their careers is so different to what's been before in terms of the academy journey, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it was interesting because we had Gareth Taylor on, and it was a similar thing, actually, funnily enough, with his women's team. They lost kind of 4, 5, 6 of their big players. Your Caroline Weir's kind of moving on. And similarly, you seem to have them few weeks to settle in, and then actually seem to hit a really nice rhythm pretty quickly. Is that a credit to the players, or was that something as well yourself kind of had to kind of work on pretty quick?
No, I think it's a credit to the players. I think there's a big change going from under 18s football, where it's regionalised as a Northern League, and then all of a sudden they come into the under 21s or the Premier League 2, and it's a national league against teams who have a different age bracket of players. So they can be like 21, 22-year-olds even playing in this league, and it's a big physical change for the players to experience that. So a lot of the players have done exceptionally well, and probably wouldn't be household names before this season, but are now getting more and more recognition and becoming more well known. And I suppose it's good for them, but it creates a lot of definition.
That's the hardest thing, to understand when you look at the results from an EDS, and you're sort of saying, well, where's the development? Well, they won the league last season. Why haven't they won the league and more this year? But it's about the player development. As we were speaking to him before, and it's not about the result. And so you want to win,
yes,
but your group could be slightly different. You might have a younger group who are a bunch of 16s, 17s, rather than a little bit older, because the group have been able to go out on loan because they're strong enough, or the particular areas there for them. So I think that must be difficult when you're building that particular squad and then it's taken away, and it might be slightly different. But
and Michael, you were at the game as well, and we had Paul and Shaw there, and they were so impressed with our young players, and equally you were as well. I thought the two centre halves were absolutely brilliant. I kind of looked colossal, and one of the things that was pointed out was that them kind of feeling very comfortable in that team, but then also almost giving out commands to the senior players as well. Is that kind of an inner belief that they have in themselves? Because that's so great to see, I think.
Yeah, I think the two players in question are probably they're very interesting players. I think because Shea Charles is only 18 and a very, very, very highly rated player, and he's been capped for Northern Ireland, so he's had kind of experiences outside of the club. So he's really mature for one so young, and probably that next part of his career is going to be probably pretty quickly, where he goes on loan or he stays here and progresses in our environment. But and the same for Jadel. Again, has come through Jadel's still an under 18, so he can play in the FAU Cup, which he did the week before against Blackburn. But an exceptional talent and one who can do all sides of the game as a centre back, which is what Michael referenced. You know, the more exposure he gets to that physical challenge, I think will be very beneficial for him in the near future.
Absolutely. Michael, for yourself, you know, when you were kind of coming up, do you remember them big differences from, you know, when going from your under 18s to then suddenly playing with your under 21s or then playing with men?
But I was City, so I was in the youth team, and all of a sudden they said, "Oh, you're just going to travel for experience." I was on the bench, got on, played. I had missed the middle part of it. Next thing I was playing against Everton on the Tuesday night. And that's how it then changed, and you were off and running. That's what I was actually touching on before. These players are getting a taste, but then they've got to go away from it and back to playing a totally different game, not really necessarily on you must win.
Yes.
Because at this level you have to win. It's every week you have to win. So that's the difference. And we talked about it in commentary with Ali last week regarding these players taking that chance in front of Pep Guardiola. So we're looking and thinking the two centre-backs, yes, they were confident, they stepped in. I thought in a few of the wider areas, I felt they could have been a little bit braver. Do you know, to actually go through somebody, go and make something happen. I understand why, because they feel like they might have had to keep the ball, come round, circulate it. But that was something I would say in more advanced areas, I thought there could have been a little bit more progressive, because they might not get that chance again.
Yes, one player who is progressive though as well, and I know is a lot of City fans, they're loving the kind of noise that's coming out. Carlos Borges, I mean, he is a pacey man, and he knows how to find the back of the net. What could you tell us a little bit more insightful about Carlos?
Well, I think Carlos scored 4 goals against Man United in this game. But yeah, I think I could probably sum it up by saying there's a lot more he could have done in this game, and he's probably sick of me telling him, but I suppose the parts of his game which he's developing and are so important because of the stuff that catches the eye is so natural to him.
What did you think of his performance last week? I watched it when he came on. I was excited to see, and I thought, you know, a couple of times he was a bit unsure. He was a bit edgy, you know, regards to he tried the odd thing, lost it, then he ran back. He was a little bit in between, and he was one I would probably have said, if you just get it out of his feet, let's go and see what you've got, especially later on in the game, because it was more open.
Yeah, I just think, Carlos has expressed pace, but like you said, that window where you trying to impress the first team manager is so small that they're so desperate to do well. I thought there were definitely signs of a little bit of nervousness in his performance, and that's what I said. You could definitely sense from our players the change in dynamic from going to being supporting Pep Guardiola in training and the team of first team players to actually playing under him. I think that could be quite a significant difference based on...
It would be a big difference, wouldn't it? Actually goes straight away. And the players next to him as well, do you know, actually demanding more.
Yeah.
So,
I think that was definitely a huge occasion.
I think they all did great though, didn't they? If you look at it in overall, how well they did. Good result, getting more people more confident, and I think it's a great sign for the academy that so many could actually get that opportunity.
Yeah, I think because of the amount of time that they may spend with the first team or get to play for this manager is so small based on the level of player that they're playing alongside. It's so important that the focus is on their overall game every single day.
Yeah.
And then if that is improving so much, it means that whether they get an opportunity now or next
his debut. So I've seen Bob.
Yeah.
Wow, what a player.
Yeah.
Have you already talked about him?
No.
You wait. I mean, I was looking through a load of footage, and he's... How old is he?
Oscar's 18, 19 soon, I think.
Is he 18? That's all, yeah. That's what surprises you with these teams. I know City play a lot of players up, but I mean, there's a very calm finish there, but another player that almost looks ahead of his years, which you can say for a lot of them.
I think he's such a unique player in the way he plays the game based on his background. So he grew up in Porto, and I think until he was 8, and then moved to Vålerenga in Norway. So has that has come from a very different background. Is totally different to what you will see in a lot of academy players. In that, I suppose nowadays you see a lot of players are conditioned to keep possession and be good at passing, but he's an exceptional dribbler and can literally do anything with the ball, and it's stuck to his foot. So he has that unique kind of quality that is unique to him, and you just want to watch him play when you work with him. And kind of, he's taught me some things. You know, he's taught me some things. He has me on. You're always on your toes because he'll see things in the final third.
I guess for coaches as well, what I always love, and there's some great clips online circling of like our under-18s or your under-23s where they'll show a goal and it's a carbon copy of a goal that you'll see the first team play at the Etihad. Yeah. What probably people don't see, and I know all of our ex-players talk about a lot, is that comes from drilling yourself on the training ground and working hard and repetition.
But is that remit the same? Do you know how much does it come down? Because you see, you talk about Jason Wilcox and you set that academy sort of booklet that you're going to follow. Is that do you know, we see other clubs and they say, right, we're going to do the same. Is it literally the same, or is there a few tweaks?
No, I think there's a clear way of working at this club. I've only been here for this is my second season. There's a clear way of working which is academy based, but once you see the first team play, I think you can sense that it's very aligned. I don't know whether that's become because it came from Barcelona originally, or Rodolfo Borrell was here and then Cheeky, so it runs throughout the club. But within that, you see the players definitely have their own.
So when Pep changes, you know, at the start of the year, we've seen, for instance, he do certain setups, whether it be full-backs, whether it be.
The Bernardo role, or as a false nine, if you play with someone like Will Dixon, so like the players have their own kind of profiles that kind of fit that position differently, and it's
kind of taken
personnel based.
You have like kind of the blueprint, but obviously then it depends on the players on the pitch.
But I guess our
like
job,
a Delap, for instance, you had, which is totally different.
So Delap is almost, I suppose, is very comparative to Erling, isn't he, in terms of his profile? And he's trying to show what he's about at Stoke City, so it's a good challenge for him.
I think he was on the score sheet as well last week, actually, as well, which was great to see. Just a final word on this, because of course we know we mentioned it, the Abu Dhabi break. Do you think as well that can only now benefit your season, that is the rest of the season to come for the EDS, Brian?
Yeah, I hope so. I think for me, you're always trying to preach to the players about the importance of the way that these guys train every single day, and our lads have to get used to that because they're very young, and some days they'll be exceptionally good, and other days they'll have periods where they're not. So they see me as being a boring fodder type who keeps on at them about being so good every single day, because when they go and train against these guys, sometimes it can take your breath away about the standard of training, because it is like nothing I've seen before. So
It's unbelievable.
Players have to prepare for that by doing the very best they can in our own groups.
Putting those basics in, absolutely. Brian, thank you for that. Absolutely fascinating. And of course, we're wishing the EDS the best of luck for the rest of the season. And we've got some of those young players there in the team as well. Alex Robertson is on our bench as well from the EDS. Young Rico Lewis starts. Cole Palmer starts as well. But who are they taking on? Well, we can now bring you the Liverpool starting 11. It's chosen by Jurgen Klopp, coming up against the manager. They've both only met each other the most in all their careers. 27 times, I think, Klopp and Guardiola have met. For this match, though, Klopp has chosen this 11. Keller in goal. Then it is Milner, Gomez, Matip and Robertson. Then Basetic, Thiago and Elliott. And their forward three of Carvalho, Salah and Nunes. Substitutes there as well. Adrian, Fabinho, Keita, Henderson, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Tomiskas, Ramsey, Phillips and Doak. Now Liverpool did only have 7 players go off to the World Cup. I say only, it's just incomparable to our 16, which was the most in the Premier League. Just had to get that one in there. David, of course, similar to City, they're not quite there's maybe a few names missing, but again, Klopp has gone for a very strong 11 there, and obviously he wants to win the game as much as City do.
Yeah, what's interesting, I mean, they had a couple of games out in Dubai, I think. Lots of goals, but lots of changes as well. I mean, obviously tonight could go to penalties. Kelleher wasn't involved in either of the penalty shootouts they did. It was Adrian. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that both teams have put out as strong a squads as they probably could.
I think there's a good chance this could go to pens.
Just been watching a lot of World Cup football. Everything went to pens today. I don't know. No. I think this will. There's going to be a lot of action in this game, and I think it's going to force people's hands rather than playing for pens, because who wants pens?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Although I don't know, we could see Ortega there maybe pull out a little super appearance for us. We know what it did for Caballero, I remember, in the League Cup. Looking at Milner there, we're assuming playing right back, and we're thinking Mahrez on the right, so Palmer on the left. Great little match up there as well for Cole Palmer, isn't it? Especially coming against a seasoned pro like Milner.
Yeah, I think, I'm not speaking for Cole, but I sense he enjoys playing. Played on that left-hand side loads, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays, but an outstanding talent from Aaron.
Would you like him, I mean, because I've seen him, there was a game, I think, where he actually ended up playing centre mid earlier on in the season, really like.
The trust issue of knowing your spaces and knowing how to go back over as well, or recovery runs, is that why he's putting him out there?
Yeah, I think he's very comfortable there. I think, I think it's a good test for him tonight. I think that test against Milner will be one that he'll relish, and he's ready, and he's had a lot of, I suppose, fielding appearances this season, and he'll be desperate to try and put in a big performance to try and.
So we haven't seen Phil Foden back in there so much either, as well. Do you know, in that midfield role, which you thought he was going to come through and be?
Yes.
And he hasn't. You know, similar to Cole Palmer, I'm thinking he's going to be the 8. He's going out into a wide position. I mean, is this Pep Guardiola developing different players
and maybe different sides to the game as well, possibly?
I think in the academy we speak a lot to our young players about in this club you have to be able to play 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Essentially, Bernardo's shown that you have to be able to play all those roles and play every single position, hasn't he?
I think he could play all of them. Not sure about goalkeeper though.
No, but I mean, there's almost like a reference there for our young players. If you reference the likes of Oscar Bob, he's played every single one of those positions and almost has to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because when the manager calls you, you can't really say where you want to play. You just have to
make sure you can do what he asks.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Thiago, I want to highlight as well as kind of one of the key players for Liverpool, because I think we noticed as well in the season when he did pick up at that injury, they do seem to lose so much in midfield. He's a hell of a talent in centre.
Yeah, he's unbelievable talent. The experience, the quality that he has, those passes that he sees, those touches in tight areas. No one can do what he does. It's simple as that. I just think Liverpool have been caught up in a little bit of a tricky situation. Personnel changing, the confidence has gone. You even see him at games at Anfield that I've been to and covered this season. It doesn't seem to be the same side, and whether we're just going to see, I don't know, to the back end of the season, what they're going to be like in the Premier League. But I really feel like this type of game, they need to deliver a trophy. So I felt like they'd go all out, everybody.
Yes. Looking at their season, David, as we do this kind of come to this restart, what is it, or where do you think they kind of maybe need to make those
Now I think it's fair to say the pre-season was too tough. Injuries started the season in a bad way. It's not the first time it's happened to Liverpool either. So when you've got so many injured players and avoidable injuries, muscle injuries as opposed to impact injuries, then obviously
the Community Shield, they ran over Manchester City. Yeah. They were very physical, very dynamic ahead, and you're thinking, good reaction. I'm thinking, here we go, and they were confident, they were celebrating, and I'm thinking, this could be tough for City the way they've started, and all of a sudden they just crashed off. So I don't know how that's happened.
Yeah, it is.
Well, injuries one thing. I mean, the other thing as well, which continued from the end of last season, they usually concede first. So there's a problem with the starting of games, if you like, or getting in that lead. And obviously, more often than not, they were able to overcome that. But it hasn't been right from the end of last season, I think, even though they obviously 2 trophies in 2 seconds.
Mane?
I don't think it's down to one player. So I think players who haven't quite got injured but have had a problem.
I'm looking and saying City have actually developed better. They've almost stick with similar sort of squad. Yes, they put 1 or 2, but I think City have done more and been able to be more flexible than Liverpool. I don't know what you think within the styles of how they play.
I think
being able to adapt.
Adding Haaland has helped them a little bit.
Yeah, I know, but even last season, if you look last season before Haaland, I feel like we've seen a different setup and different squad of more players than what Liverpool were.
I think it's been an amazing achievement to be able to keep that squad at bay.
Amazing. It's amazing. Both clubs for 4th. 4 years.
I don't think. I imagine, based on what Pep Guardiola, the Liverpool assistant, said yesterday in his press conference, that they've used this almost break as a chance to teach the players who haven't been there for a long time about their principles. So I imagine they'll be using this as almost a kickstart for the rest of their season. They still have a lot to play for, haven't they?
Yeah, they really do. Well, listen, thanks for that. That was us talking about Liverpool, of course. We've got just under 20 minutes till we kick off out here on the Etihad Stadium. The players are out there warming up, and as you can see, we've got a great panel next to me, and this is where you can get your questions in for our guests, and you haven't disappointed. So this is going to be for the whole panel, but we'll start with you, David, and I think it's a question now on everyone's lips. Our World Cup winner, Julian Alvarez, of course, we've seen some brilliant performances. And David, funnily enough, has sent in, do we think Pep is for Argentina? Is that something you'd like to see?
No.
Oh, no, you want to see them together?
I mean, it was mentioned before, I mean, you've got Haaland in the form that he's in this season, in the system that City have got, which is working, albeit in second place in the league at the moment. And I think Alvarez, if I could just quickly mention Martinez, the Argentinian goalkeeper, who in the World Cup, other than the penalty shootout. So it's one of these things that, as successful as Argentina were, it doesn't mean that they were at their best. And I think Alvarez fits.
You think that is?
I think there'll be certain games, the bigger games, where you might say, well, we need to have a 9, 2 a little bit wider, 3 in the middle. But I think we'll see many home games here against the lesser teams where that will be a matchup. I think you'll think we'll be able to do it, but it's how it's how he fits it into the system. Kevin De Bruyne is a bit of the problem for me, is how you actually go on and do that. Do you just say Rodri and De Bruyne? Do you put in the wider out? How do you go on and change it? And I think this is what's going to be strange. The pathway might be a little bit blocked for him, where anywhere else he could maybe start every week.
But I guess when you see those performances that you've almost kind of, and they'll have seen it in training, but you can't, it's not going to be as ignored maybe as he might have been now when you're coming back with the World Cup winners medal, I guess.
No, I think before you, in fairness to the first team staff, before he went on to the World Cup, I think the noises about him were so positive based on what they'd seen on the training pitch. There's this energy around him that's
his work ethic was amazing.
Yeah. And like Michael said, I suppose when we haven't got possession anyway, we always press in the 4-4-2, and him and Haaland as a front line of pressing is pretty exceptional, and he can easily play behind him in one of those attacking midfield roles whenever the manager decides. I think it's quite an exciting option.
I agree.
As the season progresses.
Can you play in a wider one? Can you make that happen so he can drop in because he's got that energy to go and actually be in the wider area, then come inside in?
Yeah, I think he can definitely play that.
So that could be one that he needs to do, though.
Yes.
Different version of it.
Well, there was the game, wasn't there, when Haaland came on and scored the penalty. Once Haaland came on, I think Alvarez had moved out to the wing,
he's made midfielders go out in wide areas, isn't he? That we just discussed. So are we going to see Alvarez? You know, is that going to be his new position to get him in the team? If anyone can do it, Pep can find a way where that. But you understand my point, against the better teams, his setup generally is that sort of three, the extra one in the middle.
Yeah, of course, and that's so key to the way City play. Just for anyone watching, we apologise. We know there might have been some slight audio problems as well on some of the streams and where you're watching, so if it has been dropping out, we do apologise. We're working as incredibly hard as we can behind the scenes to get it right. Now, this next question came in, I thought was a fascinating one, because of course we know so many players coming back from the World Cup. We spoke about it at the start of the show. It came from Roger. And I guess, Barry, I'll begin this one with you. What do you think is the most effective way to change the mindset from the World Cup to then that of your team?
I think the nature of tonight's game means it's impossible not to be focused. I think if this was a standard game against lower league opposition, I think you may be having that conversation about how the players are adapting to coming back. But I think the focus on training has been exceptional based on the opponents in front of them.
Yes.
I do sense there's this amazing respect between the players in terms of they're so respectful of each other because they know the challenge is so high when they play against each other.
Yes.
And I think this game tonight.
Jamie, do you think it'll be hard for them to lift the sort of themselves for that big game mentality? Because when there's a bigger game come up, there is a more excitement, something you look forward to. Will they have that in this game? I'm not. I don't see that level.
I think the difficulty is, I mean, obviously I can't speak for every individual player, but there will be players who go out and look at crowds. If people don't turn up, then they think people aren't interested. If people do turn up, then they think people are interested. They look at the opposition. Who am I up against? And is this player a young lad learning his ropes because it's the Carabao Cup, or is this a young lad who we know is going to be a future player? All these little bits will have influence. But you'd like to think in recruitment as well that City aren't going to bring in players who they're worried about getting themselves right for any team, as opposed to just the big games.
I wondered as well, just from your experience, do you ever remember coming back from a tough little international break?
Yeah.
And then, changing and processing obviously the grief and the loss of a tournament, but then to come back to focus, how difficult is it?
I'm laughing. I mean, the tournament's not usually a problem because you've got the break afterwards and then pre-season.
Yes.
But I remember playing for England, not having a particularly good game, and then having a City game the weekend after. And coming in here, the fans were awesome, like really behind me, and it was just like, okay, they don't believe the press.
Do you feel like when they go a little bit more, you know that they've made that mistake?
This is the thing, each individual have a different way of processing what's around them. And the idea that they just go on a foot, I mean, ideally, you talk to young players, you say every pitch is the same size, 2 goals, 11 players, forget what's on the outside. But you can't. If there's 40,000 fans behind you, you're like, I feel good. If they're not with you, then obviously you've got to go into your own head and try and make it slightly different. But yeah, that can be tough.
It can be tough.
And that's the other thing. These guys that come back from the World Cup, there's only one winner, and he's not here.
Yeah.
So everyone who's come back has got arguably a negative perspective.
I've got to say, I think we need to get some footage when he walks into the training ground.
Oh, we're going to see it. I want to see it.
When he drops his medal on the floor.
But he just literally, he's got to drop it out of his bag. Or walk it. You might as well just walk with it around his neck.
You've got to. I'm sorry.
You've got to. We need that.
Pretty modest guy. Pretty modest guy.
So there's a bit of pressure on camera crew to find that.
We'll get them on that behind the scenes. There's been a lovely video of him. They've done a party for him actually in his hometown in Argentina. He's given a lovely little speech on the stage, which is well worth a watch. And again, congratulations to Julian Alvarez. Great scenes of Aguero as well there, enjoying the celebrations as well, wasn't there? Not long to go, of course, before we're handing over to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison on commentary. So before I get some final thoughts from our panel, we're going to now hand over to Mr. Nigel de Jong. Now, of course, we like to get our predictions and stuff, but first of all, let's see what Nigel's making of the game.
Well, to be honest, I slipped a little bit, yeah. I just remember getting the ball from David Silva. I had the opportunity to shoot, and I just went for it, because normally when I shoot, it was always going into the stand, so it was right or left, and the fans always made fun of me when they were shouting, shoot, 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 and I was chopping back because I didn't want to shoot. But I was just going for it now, and I could see in the corner of my eye, Stevie G were coming in with the sliding. So I knew I had to shoot the ball as soon as possible and press it off. And lucky enough, because of the slip, it gave me enough power and speed that it went top corner. That was perfect. I mean, I saw it going. The reaction after, it was more of a surprise. Like, really, I just did that. And yeah, Jolien came in, Micah came in. We did a little celebration dance. That's what we said beforehand. If somebody scores, we do like a little crazy dance if one of us scores, because what are the odds that one of us scores? Jolien never scores, Micah never scores, I never score. So we just made it as a joke between the three of us. So it was a good feeling. It was a good memory as well to have. But fortunately.
The Nigel de Jong slip for the goal. Sorry, it was a slight slip there in tongue. Can't help it, guys, I'm sorry. You can see our panel is a hell of a panel to bring us back, of course, to the restart of our campaign. Michael Brown, Brian Barry Murphy, head of our EDS team, and Mr. David James. Now, we're going to be back at half-time and full-time, but we are about to hand over to our commentary team. Before that, though, predictions from our guests in the studio. So, David, I know you're still settling in, so I'm going to give you time. We're going to come straight to you, Michael.
But he's been on the training ground.
Sometimes.
What a chance have we got? He knows what's happening. He's seen it all.
Sometimes, mate.
Can I go first?
You're going first. Come on.
I think it's got a chance of penalties. I do think that.
Okay.
But I'm still going to go with City 2-0.
City 2-0.
Yeah.
Who can you don't Haaland on the score sheet?
Well, he's got every chance of scoring, hasn't he? I'm hoping Kevin De Bruyne masterclass.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
I love watching him play. I think he's got a bit of everything.
Brian, for yourself, how can you see the game playing now?
Yeah, I have no idea what the score is going to be. I think it's going to be fascinating. I think Liverpool are definitely going to try and press high. I think they're going to be so aggressive, but I think our lads are going to be so committed to try and play through that pressure. So I think it's going to be an intriguing battle. But I think our lads will play really well. I think we'll win.
Okay, David?
Yeah, I'm looking at the lineups here, and purely on the lineups, I think City will win this game. I'm not going to go for a score though.
No score.
Oh, come on.
I'm not going to go. You can't go
Come
for a
on.
score.
Come on.
Kel, it's never been heard of. We often say it. We've got to say a score.
I'll go for.
I'll go 3-1.
I'll go 2-1 then.
3-1, love that. And because key battle, we've got a couple more minutes before, but what a key battle for you on that pitch today. Where could the game be won or lost?
I mean, Gundogan, KDB in that middle are going to be key, but obviously Mr. Haaland, and how Liverpool's defence deals with that. I mean, Ortega, and I was supposed to talk about him earlier. Love the fact he catches the ball.
Yeah. It does come in handy, doesn't it?
You see goalkeepers who don't catch balls now; they just parry him. I like him. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game of football. I just think, as I say, with KDB, Gundogan, and Haaland looking like they like each other.
And a quick
You've got said your score quickly, just so we know.
But just a quick word as well as the light show's on. Great, Rico Lewis, we're probably assuming he's going to come against Carvalho, so that should be a great little battle for us to watch as well, shouldn't it, Brian?
Yeah, it'll be a brilliant test of where he's at. I think it's a perfect game for him to try and cement his place in that team for what's coming up.
Absolutely. Well, listen, gents, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much to our guests today. The light show is in full flow here in the Etihad Stadium. Don't forget, we'll be back at half-time, then at full-time. And if you want full commentary, our commentary team today, Alistair Mann, is joined by Andy Morrison. Thank you so much for joining us. Our campaign is back. It's so good to say it and so great to be back with you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you at half-time. And I'm going to say 3-1 City. Come on.
They go.
Welcome to the Etihad Stadium on what promises to be a fantastic return to first-team action for Manchester City after the World Cup interlude. And what a night it promises to be. There is the most magnificent light show that's right across the Etihad Stadium pitch, introducing the lineups, and it's a lineup that is extremely strong.